Welcome to Accrivia training. This video is for the Payroll End of Year. Please also refer to the Payroll End of Year user guide that your main payroll contact with Accrivia would have received via email, or please use your F1 key on the various screens that you'll be in. Now, your first part of your Payroll End of Year is your preparation. Step 1 is to check your company settings. Go to File, System, Settings, and have a look over your registered name, your address details, and your ABN. Please ensure that they are correct and do not contain any characters that are not accepted by the ATO. Please note during this video that we'll be referring to your various businesses as entities. This is regardless of whether they are called store, division, branch, or company in your database, as they are customizable to you. Please flick through the various entities on your database to ensure that they are correct. Please note that whilst you're in this screen, that other users of Accrivia may have issues accessing some functionality. If you have a rather large database and a large number of users, you may wish to do this step during a quiet time of the day where you will not be stopping them from doing their functions. Step 2 is selecting and reviewing the allowances and deductions that will show on your payment summaries. Go to Payroll, File Maintenance, Types. The column that you are looking for is this Pay Sum Type column. You'll probably find it over on the far right hand side column of this screen. Don't be afraid to grab it and drag it around to where you need it to be to make this process easier. What you'll need to know is what allowances and deductions that you pay or deduct are meant to be shown in a separate box on the payment summary. If they're meant to be, you need to put a tick beside the pay type. If you require assistance in knowing which ones to select, please contact your accountant or talk to the ATO or have a look on the ATO website. Now, there are two special types of pay types that you'll need to do additional setup for. Those are for union fees and workplace giving. Locate them in your list if you happen to have them. What you need to do is set up the union name in the union details column. Double click and type in the union name and save. If all the fees are for the exact same union, please make sure that the union name in that field is exactly the same, and then they'll be combined on your payment summary. What you also need to do is give the classification of union in the classification column. The other pay type is workplace giving. That's where your employees make donations to a charity that you then forward on their behalf. What you need to do for this one is make sure that WP giving is in the classification box as well. When you're happy with that setup, close the screen and continue. Step 3 is running your system check. Before running your system check, please change the system date to be the last day of the financial year that you are processing. To change this date, please go to the bottom left-hand side of your screen, double click on the date, type in the date of the end of the financial year, and click OK. You're then able to go to your system check screen. Go to File, System Check. I want you to tick the first and the third boxes on General Ledger and the first on Payroll and click Do It. This is just ensuring that your system is in balance. As you can see from this example, there are no errors in General Ledger, but there are some errors showing in Payroll. What you need to do is click on this clipboard button, paste it into an email and email that to support@accrivia.com.au, and we will look into that for you. At this stage, you cannot proceed with your payment summaries or MTUP file until you are given the OK from Accrivia support that you can proceed. Step 4 is to check that your payroll data balances. Go to the Reports menu, Payroll, Pay Emp, and you want the Employee Summaries Totals report. Enter the date range for the financial year. You don't need to select a particular entity at this stage, and click on Preview. Keep the report off to the side and then run your year-to-date report. What we're trying to do here is just compare the totals on the report. The figures here to check would be your net figures, that they match each other, that your tax matches. Don't be worried that this report shows it as a negative, it's the way that this report is structured. Your allowances and deductions match up, and the gross wages also match. If they are the same as each other, you're then able to proceed. If they are not, you'll need to do a little bit further investigation, maybe run the reports by entity to narrow down which entity has the problem, and talk to Accrivia support if you require help in this area. Now keep these reports, just minimise them, print them out, save them as PDF, because you'll need them for a later step. Step 5 is to check that the payroll module balances to your general ledger. In the reports menu, click on the general ledger tab, and you're looking for the postings summary by module report. Put in a date range of the financial year that we are working in and click on Preview. This report brings up all modules. You want to look for the payroll module. So that's in this section here. So click on through till you find payroll. What we want to compare is the account that keeps track of the pay-as-you-go withholding tax amounts. In this case, in this example, it's account 253, PAYG withheld, and it's 72,482. And if we go back to one of our earlier reports, it's also 72,482. So if we're happy with that, then we can proceed. The next section is payment summary processing. It would be a good idea at this point to run a backup. So you go to your File menu, click on Backup, make sure the location here is in green and click OK. Please note that if you have a large database, that this will take time and may also slow down users who are using your system. So it may be advisable to run this at a quiet time of the day if that is at all possible. Now your next step is to review your employee details. Let's go to Payroll, File Maintenance, Employee. Go to the Tax tab of your employees. What you want to do here is if they have any reportable fringe benefits figures, they go in here. You would get these off your accountant, or you may have worked these out for yourself. If you have any lump sum e-payments, which are payments related to prior years that meet a certain criteria, they also need to be reported here. What we also have to assist you with this, in your reports menu, under payroll, under pay admin, is employee TFN status. Now this report will tell you if any employees have invalid tax file numbers, if they have tax file numbers that are all ones or all threes, because you may need to check these to see if it's still applicable for these employees to have those tax file numbers. You can run this report at any time during the year and keep an eye on which employees you need to chase for correct tax file numbers. Once you've finished updating your employees, you may wish to do another backup. Now you're at the point of running the actual payment summaries and EPDUP file. Go to Payroll, End, Payment Summary Information. The first tab is an Instructions tab. Please read through that. It is just what we've gone through, but it may be to your assistants to go through that again. Next tab is the Company tab. What you need to check here is that the year end is correct, that the run type is production as opposed to test. And then you need to work out which company or entity that you'll be producing payment summaries for. If you are a one ABN business, but with multiple entities, you can select any one from these drop boxes and move all the entities across. If you have a number of different ABNs in your business, you will need to run through this process for each ABN. From the drop box, we'll select Margaret River, as this has its own ABN and only one entity. Just double click to move that one across to the side. The entities that are shown in the right hand side box here are the ones that will have payment summaries produced for. Enter a contact name and the authorised person. The authorised person would have been the individual that would have signed the payment summaries originally when you still had to do that. Phone number, fax number if you have one, check that your address is correct, and then click on Next. Now this is making sure that the correct allowances and deductions will be showing on your payment summary. What will be shown here will be those that you ticked in the previous step where you check through your allowance and deductions. Now if need be, you can make some changes in this screen, but hopefully you got it right first time round and you're able to just accept what is shown here. The next step is going to your Reports tab. You'll notice here you've got a number of options in which you can produce the payment summaries for. First option is a single employee. You would go into this box here and select the employee that you wish to produce a payment summary for. Please note that the employee that you select must be part of the entity that you selected on the Company tab. So you locate them, click on OK. You'll have the option to print or email. Please note that email will only be there if the employee happens to have an email address against their employee file. And the option to create an EMP file, which is the Payment Summary Annual Report for the ATO, will not be there for an individual. Once you've selected your employee, click on Print and then Preview. You can see their payment summary there. You can print it, save it down as PDF and issue it to them. Your next option is All Employees. Note that you now have the option to create the EMP file. I would suggest for the first time that you are doing this, that you would untick that, because really you just want to review the payment summaries at this point in time before you create the EMP file and before you issue them. So All Employees and then Print. Now this error that has popped up, most of you won't get that error. It's Accrivia talking to our FTP server to make sure that you have the latest version of the report. So don't worry if you don't have that. There'll just be a little part that I'll want you to check on the report before you proceed. So you click on Preview and your payment summaries will come up. What you need to check for on the payment summaries themselves is that they're actually being run for the correct financial year. In this case, we're doing the financial year for 2014, so we want 30 June 2014. What we also want to look for on our payment summaries is this version down here, saying version 2014 for 2014. If this happens to say 2013, particularly if you had the FTP error that came up before, please contact us and we'll get you the latest version of the report. Now, one of the things to check here is the number of reports that have been produced. So click on the End button, that'll tell you that there's 36 payment summaries in there. Now, it may be that you have had exactly 36 employees in that entity for the year. It may be that you've had 35 and one of them has an ETP payment summary. If you've got a small number, you can flick through just to have a quick check to see if everything is looking where it should be. As you've noticed with this one, we have workplace giving showing in the deductions box as it should. And anyone else with union fees with this database will also be showing there. There we have it there with SDA Union. If you have a large number of employees, what I would recommend is pick some at random, or pick some that you know that you need to look at that little bit closer. So you might pick yourself, you might pick someone who you know has a lot of deductions, pick someone who you know has reportable super contributions or has maybe been terminated through the year and has lump sum A's or D's as part of their payments. And once you're happy, you'll then either be able to print these out and hand them out to your staff or email them. To email, you would just click on the email button here. Now the system will either email directly via Outlook depending on your system setting. So the system will either email using Outlook or it might use the bulk email facility depending on your system settings. When you're ready to create the EmpDupe file, make sure that part's ticked, you've got all employees, and click print. This will run through the process again of producing the payment summaries, but the first part of that is the EmpDupe file. What I recommend at this stage is that you create a folder, something like End of Year 2014 like I have here. Now if you've only got one ABN, you will be fine to actually just call that file EmpDupe and leave it as it stands. If you have multiple ABNs, then they're still called EmpDupe. You just put a slightly different ending onto them for them to be accepted by the ATO, which might be something like .A01, and then the next one that you produce will be .A02. So you can save that. Okay, and you can just double check again at this time that it is still producing the same number of payment summaries. Okay. Now what you can also do is, chances are you'll probably have some employees there that don't have an email address. If you've already under all employees option emailed, what you'll then want to do is just be able to print those that have no email address. So you can see here the email box has been grayed out. Untick the Create EmpDupe file because you've already done that, and just click on print. And then on preview, and as you can see here, in this example, we've got 6 who didn't have an email address. So these are the ones that you'll want to print out. And if you want to as well, use the Adobe icon there to then export it as a PDF if you wish to save those down separately. Now, if you've got more than the one ABN, you would then go back to this point, select your different ABN entity, select the entities that belong to that ABN, and then proceed as you did before, completing the contact name and authorised person, as they may well be different for the ABN. They may be exactly the same. Check your allowances and deductions, and then go through the same steps again with your reports. And you'll continue to do that with every single ABN. So if you've got 5 ABNs, you'll go through this process 5 times. And now that process is finished, and you've issued the payment summaries to your staff, you'll need to get the EmpDupe file to the ATO. There are a number of methods of doing that. Please refer to the PDF documentation for assistance with that. Your next step is to close off your payroll for the end of year. To do that, go to Payroll End of Year. And this is just quite a simple step. Just type in here, yes, be 100% sure before you do this. Once again, if you want, before you get to this step, run a backup. Depending on when you're running this, you may be prompted to set the system date. You want to set the system date for the end of the financial year, so the 30th of the 6th, 2014. What this is doing is it's clearing out the year-to-date and period-to-date figures for those employees. It is also closing off the end of year so that you can no longer produce any pay runs prior to the 1st of July 2014 in this example. And it also, as part of this step, you're given the opportunity to download the tax tables from our FTP server. If anything goes wrong at this point, please contact us and we can get the tax tables to you. If not, there is another menu option in order to download the tax tables at a later point. So if you're updating the tax tables or tax scales as they're referred to here, type in yes and OK. There'll be messages coming up here which will say whether it has been successful or not. If you get this type of error message, please contact us. And that is your end of year rolled over. There is an optional step that we call the End HSR option. Please refer to your documentation for this step. If you wish to run it, you go to Payroll End HSR. What this step does, if you go to Payroll File Maintenance Employee, is rolls over the accruals for you. You'll see a buoy field here, that's balance at the end of the year. It'll take whatever balance is in your entitled field and put it in the buoy field. It'll zero the taken hours and the accrued hours will be changed to what's in the entitled box. It's your choice whether you run this. It's your choice whether you run this at this time of the year or whether you actually wait till the end of the calendar year for that process. Now, you may be advised that you need to update your super percentage rate. To do that, it's in the File System Settings. Under Payroll, you can see the base super rate here of 9.25%. Double click on that. You'll get a pop-up message. Please read and click yes if you wish to continue. Input the new rate. Please check that. Do not just go with the default. And please check with the ATO if you are meant to be putting up the rate this financial year. Click on OK. You will need to type yes at this point and the system will run. You will be given a results screen. This will show you the number of employees that have been updated and will list any employees that have not been updated. You can use the clipboard option to take a copy of this, save it down in a Word or a text document or print it out for yourself. And click on Done. And that's finished. Close out of this screen. And your end of year has been processed for your payment summaries and rolling over the end of year for you to start again. Please contact Accrivia support if you have any questions regarding the process or if you require any assistance.